Welcome back to In Focus. Despite an increased presence from Ivory Coast's new national army and UN peacekeepers, refugees from this year's political crisis in Ivory Coast say it is still too dangerous to return home. VOA West Africa correspondent Stearns has more.
The UN Refugee Agency is helping more than 18,000 Ivorians in neighboring Ghana. They crossed the border because they fear reprisal attacks by supporters of Ivorian President Alassane Ouattara. Most of the refugees are ethnic Guerre, and most of the Guerre backed Mr. Ouattara's rival, the former Ivorian President Laurent Gbagbo. With Ouattara fighters now part of the new National Security Force, many refugees say they're too afraid to go back.
I lost everything. They killed my husband, my brother, and my children. And I just came with my granddaughter. I lost everything, so there's no reason for me to go back.
Dans mon avenir, vraiment, je veux être quelqu'un.
The situation is not good, and I really want something to help me forget what happened in Ivory Coast. But with the way things are going now, I don't know whether I should be expecting a better future.
Relief officials say the number of new arrivals has fallen since Mr. Gbagbo's arrest in April and the start of a new Ouattara-led government in Abidjan.
It was toward the middle of March that we started having people come over. And they were coming over at a rate of maybe a couple of hundred a day. And then it spiked after the arrest of Mr. Gbagbo. But since, I would say since the middle to the end of July, the numbers have gone down quite significantly.
UN officials say they're now facing a $70 million shortfall in donor funds to support Ivorian refugees.
We've used the resources that we've got within the country programs, and we've also tried to get funding from our headquarters. But the issue now is that since it's no longer an emergency, it's becoming a lot more difficult for us.
Refugees from Ivory Coast's political crisis are spread across West Africa in Ghana and Togo and Guinea. The largest group is in Liberia, where the UN is building more permanent camps for as many as 80,000 people. Like in Ghana, most of the refugees in Liberia are ethnic Guerre. More than half are in Grand Jeddah County, where they live with friends and family from the same ethnic group, which in Liberia is called Kron. Liberia's government wants more UN peacekeepers along this border ahead of next month's presidential election. UN peacekeepers in Ivory Coast are adding patrols along with the new national army after 23 people were killed last week in an attack that Ivory Coast's defense ministry says was carried out by Liberian mercenaries. Scott Stearns, VOA News, Dakar.